chainsaws in the world. They're used in rock quarries to cut and extract some of the toughest materials on Earth. The machine's massive blade can make both vertical and horizontal cuts, slicing through hard stone as if it were butter.
Wow.
Hundreds of feet underground, this monster chainsaw is carving through geological deposits of marble. The chainsaw arm can rotate to make both horizontal and vertical cuts as needed. It cuts uniform blocks of marble. Then, a loader extracts the blocks from the rock face. They're the exact size the customer requested, thanks to the precision and power of the chainsaw mining machine.
Wow.
It takes several steel tubes of various dimensions to make a chainsaw mining machine. They use an automated saw to cut the tubes to the correct length. This one will be used for the chassis. They assemble the tubes in the correct configuration. Then a worker joins them with welds. They lower the completed chassis onto the chainsaw machine tracks. The chassis is bolted to the fifth wheel coupling. This allows the machine to rotate 360 degrees. They bring in the framework that will house the motors, oil tank, and electrical components. They bolt the framework to the chassis. The next part is a rail system for raising and lowering the chainsaw blade. A worker attaches the rail system to the chassis using a thick pin. This pin acts as a hinge, allowing the vertical structure to be folded down when needed. After verifying that the machine's basic framework fits together well, they take it apart for painting. They also paint the gear motors. This one will power the carriage that moves the blade back and forth. Once all the parts have been painted, they reassemble the framework. Next, they mount the carriage to the front of the machine. It rotates within the vertical rail to position the blade for cutting. Workers then install the gear motor that powers the horizontal movement of the chainsaw blade. They secure it with several bolts. Two more gear motors will drive the cutting chain and rotate the blade. The team mounts them to the front of the carriage, to the right of the other gear motor. At the back of the carriage, a worker assembles a gear known as a pinion. The pinion engages with a track called the rack. This rack and pinion system allows the carriage to slide back and forth. A worker folds hydraulic hoses in a long metal cage and bolts the cage to the front of the machine. Then he connects the cutting chain hoses to the motor, protecting the connections with metal half flanges. They make all the electrical connections. Then screw fireproof and waterproof covers onto the electronics boxes. They program the chainsaw machine's operator screen. Stay tuned, because the big chainsaw blade is next. Few things are as fierce as the blade of a stone-cutting chainsaw machine. It's 10 feet long, weighs over 1,300 pounds, and has big teeth that make cutting through solid rock look easy.
Still recording.
It's no surprise that making one of these giant blades is a huge job. A computer-driven plasma flame cuts a large blade from a sheet of high-carbon steel. Using a crane with a powerful magnet, they transfer the chainsaw blade to a milling station. Here, computerized tools smooth out the steel. They also bring the blade to the correct width and carve channels for lubrication tubes. They drill holes for metal plates that will align the cutting chain. The team paints the saw and adds an attachment bar, then mounts it to the front of the chainsaw machine. They slide the bar into the blade support on the front. It's a critical connection because it bears the weight of the heavy blade as it saws through stone. They secure it to the blade support with a thick pin and a nut. Next, they make the cutting chain sprocket. A computer-guided tool carves tooth-like projections around the rim of the steel disc. These teeth are designed to grab the links of the cutting chain. The sprocket is ready to be mounted to the chainsaw machine. An employee slides the sprocket onto a shaft protruding from the cutting chain gear motor. He bolts the disc to the surrounding hub. Next, they assemble the cutting chain. A two-part fastener system holds the links together. It starts with this hollow pin. A worker drives the hollow pin into a hole in the links using a hydraulic press. He inserts an L-shaped pin into the hollow pin. The tongue of the L-shaped pin fits into a groove adjacent to the hollow pin. The press forces the L-shaped pin into the groove. He alternates outer links and inner ones to build a 30-foot chain that will fit to the saw body. Then, another worker loops it around the saw blade and sprocket. The chain fits perfectly to the saw. He joins the ends of the chain with a hollow pin and an L-shaped pin to complete the loop. He flattens them with a hammer instead of a press, because it's easier to use a hammer at this angle. The chain is in place, but it doesn't have the teeth it needs to cut stone yet. These parts, a carrier and a tungsten carbide cutting bit, give the blade its cutting edge. He places a set on each of the chain's outer links, then screws them in. Studded with tough, sharp teeth, this mega chainsaw is now ready for rock cutting action. It cuts through stone cleanly and efficiently. Its size and power make it a force to be reckoned with underground. Despite its bulky frame, this chainsaw mining machine has a wide range of motion. Here, the front carriage rotates the blade to demonstrate how it can be repositioned between cuts. No matter how you slice it, that's pretty impressive.